SwoleBenji here. So today we are going to be doing armor testing with spec and also armor grade. We will be using a mercenary jacket for the test, and I just want to say right now real quick that this idea comes from the Ruffian, who asked, show how squishy people are in low tier armor. Since we did a test for weapon damage, now we are going to do a test for just armor and damage taking in general. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a tier 5 group dungeon rat as our damage dealer, because rats have no abilities, they don't have any damage modifiers. We have 2 rats here. I have invisibility potions, so let's get the number that they do when we're naked. That is no armor, you can see right here. No armor at all. They're doing 113 damage per bite, and that is going to be our baseline. So let's go invisible and reset now, and I will see you in a sec. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the specifics, but this is how I'm doing the test. Alright, I'm just putting on the armor, and I'm putting on the basic perk here that gives you a little bit more defense. And as you can see, I am using just 1 spec on armors. So everything currently has 1 spec, and I have tier 5, which is basically like wearing 4.1, tier 6, equipped, tier 7, tier 8, and then tier 8.3. And then I'm going to increase the specs up and so on and so forth and record the results. So I didn't film doing the tier 5, but as you can see, this is basically what I'm doing. I'm running up to the mob. It's biting me for 41, so I'm just going to go into my little program here, and then I'm just going to type 41, and then I'm going to go invisible or die, because it has a 2-minute cooldown. This is going to take me a while to test, and I don't think you want to sit here and watch me do that the whole time. So I'm just going to cut ahead once I have all the numbers down, and then I'm going to talk about it, and then we'll test the next set of numbers. Alright, and we are back, and I am here to report that our rat test subject died, unfortunately. So what I had to do was borrow these little undead swordsmen so that they could whack me around with that little slash attack there, and then I could run away and reset without needing to use the invisibility potion. And this is the numbers that I've come up with here, and that is, they actually do more damage than the rat, which is good for our testing too. So they do normally 508 damage if you're completely naked, and I know it's a little hard to see due to all the stuff on the screen, but all I'm wearing is the bag and the armor and invis pots. That's it. So again, this is just armor. This is not helmet, and this is not boot. The majority of your defense comes from your armor. And we are using leather as a baseline. If you use plate, of course, it's going to be more. And if you use light armor, cloth armor, then it's going to be basically nothing anyway. So this is for medium armor users generally, as plate armor gyps your damage too much. I think the majority of the player base uses leather armor, so that's why I'm testing it in this video. So we see a trend here, sort of, kind of, is that every 101 IP increase, we generally mitigate about 6 damage from these guys. And we also get about 50 to 60 to 70 HP depending on the tier we're in. But basically, every 17 IP increase is 1 damage mitigated, and every 2 IP is about 1 HP. So that's actually pretty good. But now let's crank the spec up to 100, and we're going to do these same numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and let me show you how I'm going to do that. Basically, I'm going to open the Destiny board here, and what I'm going to do is crank up, this is a mercenary jacket, there it is. It's currently level 1 along with everything else in the tree, and we are going to bump it up to level 100, and then what that's going to do is change our IP or item power from, what was, this is 8.3 that I'm wearing. 8.3 was 1,427, and it is now 1,689. So that is like 200, it's about 250 or so, not exactly, but it is about 200 item power jump. So what I'm going to do now is start back over at the tier 5. It is now 1052 item power instead of 824. And I'm going to do these same tests again, and we're going to see how much more damage is mitigated, how much more HP we receive. Alright, now that we have 100 spec, I did the test again, and things changed a little bit, okay? It takes a little bit more IP now in order to get damage mitigation, but it's still about the same. Every time you go up 1 tier of equipment, you either gain 6 mitigation or 5 mitigation. But the HP you gain is much more significant this time around. You'll notice that we're gaining far more HP per tier that we increase. And I found that kind of interesting. Also, you'll notice that the IP is increased a little bit as well, because the higher tier you get, the more it takes your current IP and let me show you on here. Mastery modifier. Let me just hide this, and you see down here where it says Mastery modifier. For a tier 8.3, it is 20%. That means you gain 20% more IP through Mastery. Whereas a tier 5 only has a Mastery modifier of... Hold on, let me open the tier 5. Is only a Mastery modifier of 5% instead of 20, okay? So the higher tier you get, the more your Mastery modifier modifies how much IP you get. You'll notice that we're getting about plus 112, plus 113 as we go up, which is more than the plus 100 if we had no spec. So the more spec that you naturally have through your fame gains, the more IP your gear will give you, the higher tier it is. But like I said, you get more HP for more IP. It seems to scale even more. So if you can get your IP as high as possible, then the HP scaling will get even better. Even though it's a fraction, it's still better. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to open the Destiny board, and your next level of progression for armor will generally look something like this, okay? I'm not going to sit here and test this next step, but generally, if you were a main that used Mercenary Jacket, the next best thing you can do to boost this item's power is not crank it to 120, because when you crank from 100 to 120, it's going to cost you 25 million combat fame, okay? Well, and that's only going to give you 40 item power. Well, 40, yeah, it's going to give you 40 more IP to your armor, okay? So, which would be what, like 2 damage mitigation for that amount? What you can instead do is take your other items. Now these, the Hunter Jacket and the Assassin Jacket, are non-artifact items. And you'll notice that what they do is they give a 0.2 bonus to all other jackets when leveled. So if we crank this to 100, which would only cost us 8 million combat fame credits, you'll notice that it will give 20 IP to all other jackets, okay? So if you do the math, 17 million combat fame credits is cheaper than 25 million, all right? So what you would generally do is you would max out Hunter Jacket next, and then your non-artifact Assassin Jacket, okay? And that's going to increase the item power, all right? So just with that alone, look how much HP now that our 8.3 gives. So our 8.3 gave us a total of 2,205 HP, and now we're at 2,250. So what that did, just maxing those two, gave us 45 more health points, right? Okay, and I'm gonna cringe if this doesn't work out correctly, okay? But what I'm gonna do now is show you the exact same thing. Okay, so that's 40 increase in item power. Let's just move that back down to 1. Okay, these two are going back down to 1. And then we're going to move this to 120, which is 40 more item power. There we go. It's completely mastered, right? Take it off, put it back on, and it's now 2,256. It's the same exact IP, but it gave us 6 more HP for costing almost double. 6 HP. Which I don't know how that is calculated, because it says it gives it 40 item power, and the other thing said it gave it 40 item power. So why in the heck is this giving us 6 more HP? I don't know. I don't understand how it's calculated. It's just how the game is coded. But what I'm going to do for the next set of testing purposes, okay, is I didn't want to craft it. Hold on. Generally, we're going to knock this back down to 100, by the way. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so normally what you would do is you would crank all your other armors to 100. Now, let me just show you real quick on your artifact items. That is anything that requires an extra piece of equipment to craft. Royal Jacket is an artifact item. You'll notice it only gives 0.1 bonus to all other leather jackets. So you would have to level this and another artifact jacket to level 100 in order to get the effects of just leveling the Hunter Jacket or Assassin Jacket to 100. So it basically costs double. In this case, leveling from 100 to 120 on your main is not worth it, okay? But it's still easier to level in the long run, because you can level these by wearing them or using them, or fame tomes. You cannot use fame tomes to go beyond 100. You can only use combat fame credits. So most players' progression is going to look like this, where they max out all of their armor pieces to 100 before they start going into the 120s, right? And that one looks a little differently. Why is this one differently colored? Look at the gold on this one, it's dark. And the gold on this one is shiny. Isn't that weird? It's like it gets brighter the more I go down. I don't know, that's odd. But now if we put it on, we have 2,309 HP, instead of 2,205. So for all that effort of making all the other armors level 100 with an 8.3, we gained 104 HP, which is not much. But I'm going to go ahead and test it anyway, and I'm going to get back to you. Alright, now finally we have at maximum, or not maximum anymore, 700 spec. You can see it's still basically the same mitigation. The HP does go up even more thanks to the mastery that I talked about earlier, but other than that, it's pretty much the same. It's pretty linear. So now what we're going to do is we're going to test 720 spec, and then I think it's, what, 800, it's like 840. So 720 and 840 spec will be the last tests, and I'm only going to test it with the tier 5 and the tier 8.3, because that is generally what you will be using. Like, tier 5 is equivalent to 4.1, sort of, and tier 8.3 is, if you have everything maxed out at 120, you're going to be able to afford 8.3 consistently, non-stop, forever. So let me go ahead and get those calculations. Alright, so now, this is the final test here. You can see 700 spec, which is what most players can achieve, especially in their first month of playing if they really focus on armor, which you really should focus on weapons, but if you have weapons done, you focus on armor next. Alright? And then the 720 spec is if you want to specialize in one specific armor, okay? And then the 840 spec is if you want to spend a ridiculous amount of time and silver and combat fame credits to completely max it out and be the grand master of all of, like, say, leather armors. You can see that the cost to go from 720 to 840 is not worth it. You receive 1 less damage from the mob's attack, and you only get 14 additional HP. You're spending something like over 50 million silver, and I don't know how many hours of farming, even if you were farming at the maximum possible rate of 20 million combat fame, or I'm sorry, yeah, 20 million fame per hour. That is going to take you like 16 to 20 hours of pure farming, and that is converting silver to fame credits, which is going to cost you another multiple hundreds of millions of silver. So if you want to spend, let's just say 200 million silver, let's round it up a bit, and a good month of grinding to mitigate 1 damage and have 14 additional health, or to mitigate 1 damage with 8.3 and to have 22 additional HP, you go for it. So this is showing that going to 840 spec is absolutely just bonkers, ridiculous, stupid, crazy. Not something you should ever do, okay? Now, if you want, the gear that I'm testing currently, which I don't know if you can see it here, let me hide the text for a bit and get my watermark back on. But you can see that this is all normal quality. So if I went from normal quality to masterpiece, that's another plus 100 item power. So what that means is that we can mitigate maybe about, I don't know, 4 more damage and have about 100 more HP if you had masterpiece on instead of normal quality. That's about it. I hope this educates you guys on spending combat fame credits on armor. I don't think spending on armor has ever been worth it. You do get additional HP, and for those wondering, if you want to compare the just no spec at all, if you want to compare 100 spec, etc., just rewind the video and check out the values on the screen, okay? It's pretty simple. Just scroll backwards a bit and take a look, and then you can compare the numbers yourself. I'm not going to compare the numbers anymore in this video. It's already been going on long enough. Guys, I'm SwoleBenji. Thanks for watching. As always, be a bro and stay swole. This was a lot of work to compile all this data. Please leave a like. It really does help out. A lot of you guys haven't been liking the vids lately, so I don't know if I should continue even making Albion vids, but if you guys get a bunch of likes on this, then yeah, I'll keep making them. Let me know what you want to see next, and like I said, this video did come from an idea from Da Ruffian, which I showed off earlier in the video. All credit goes to him for giving me the idea. I just demonstrated the numbers on screen for you. So again, maybe I can pick your comment next and make a video about it. So let me know what you want to see. Anyway, guys, I'll see you later. Take care. All right, for those that stuck it out after the outro, which only is like 30% of you, thank you so much. So I'm actually going to deep dive a little bit more into the spec numbers. Okay, so I like to play yellow zone content, so I would look at the 8.3 panel, right? And let me show you why specking up armor beyond 100 is not worth it, okay? From 1 spec to 100 spec, these are the numbers. You take 159 damage when you spec it up to 100, which you can do on a brand new character on a brand new account in 4.5 hours. That is my record. For a very new player, it may take a few days, and yeah, it's for a generally advanced player with lots of money, you can do it even faster with tomes. Anyway, so 1 spec to 100, not a lot of time, not a lot of investment. You receive 12 damage reduction, which is damn good. Now, if you go to 700 spec from 100 spec, look at that. It's 5. It's 5, and you put 7 times the effort, and it's only 5 damage reduction. That's it. And then if you go from 7, like, let's continue with 100. If you go from 100 to 840, that is, so you have 139 damage reduction at 840. You have 147. So you gain 8 damage reduction. That is 8 damage reduction. For, like, to get to 840 spec is insane. It's hundreds of millions of silver and months worth of playtime. You're only getting 8 more damage reduction from 100 spec, okay? And then HP, like, from 1 to 100, look at that. It's like at least 200 and like 21 or something like that. It's or it's a little bit more, maybe 226, 225. I don't know, but it's 200 something, right? It's at least 205 plus 21, okay? Whatever that is. 226, right, from 1 to 100, but 100 to 700 is only 104, okay? It's really not a lot. It's half as much for 7 times the effort, and then go to 840, again, 2384 versus 2205, it's like 150 HP for 100 times the effort. It's insane. It's stupid, guys. Anyway, that I'm SwoleBenji. Thanks for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. And I just wanted to show you, it's so ridiculously stupid to focus on anything beyond 100 spec for armors. It's really stupid. Okay. Again, you can just, like, here's 100. Here's 1 spec. Okay, this is what you start with. Obviously, it sucks to have 1 spec, but when you hit 100 spec, everything's nice and Gucci. And then when you hit 700 spec, yeah, it's better. Sure, it's better. But not everyone has the time to level up every single piece of armor to 700. You should be focusing on weapons. And then 700 to 840, or just 100 to 840 is not worth it. 100 spec, you would think, 100 spec, wow, that's not a lot compared to 840 spec. No, it's... anyway, guys, you've got the point, right? Anyway, take care, see you tomorrow.